in example 2, we're going to start looking for these triads, these chord shapes. So remember, with what we just learned with the pentatonic scale, we're looking at it as single notes, right? But if you take a kind of a Polaroid and go, oh, yeah, those notes are in the scale, but they're also on our chord sheet. If you look at, root third, fifth, and you see these patterns of the chord shape, like this C chord. If we break it down to this, that's still a C chord, that triad, right? And that's inside of our major pentatonic scale. So when I look down, I see this pentatonic, but I also see this triad. That's key to start looking at this blueprint layering thing. So if you look at the chord shapes, I show you all these different C chords. And this is what the cage system is, right? Oh, it's a bar chord, but this is your A chord shape moved up, right? This is a C bar chord, but there's your E chord shape moved up, right? And we have all these different places we can play C chords. And we're going to get into that. But for right now, look for the root note, look for these triads, but look for areas of overlap with the major pentatonic scale. We don't want to get lost in all these other variations right now. So remember, all we're talking about is like this C chord, this C chord, this D, this D. Okay? And then we have this G. So if we take this C chord and move it down, we've got that G chord. Right? So G, C, A. So it's the same chord shape moved around. This is why it's so important to know where the root is. It's the same shape, but you have to know where to go to apply it and what's going on around it. Now, if you look at this G chord shape, I show you a G up here. So in the cage system, this would be like your C chord shape, or you could even see like a D chord shape right there. But there are other C, Gs, Ds, and As across the neck, but we're not going to worry about that right now. But you do need to know these shapes, and you don't have to be able to play the full bar chord, but you need to be able to find these triads. So let me show you what I mean here. When I play this C chord, I see that C chord. And if you look at the chord diagram sheet, I circled a note in blue. That's the third of the chord. This is called an inversion when it's not in root position. So here we have the E as the lowest note. It's a C/E. That's a very common Hendrix sound and a really great chord to be able to grab. You'll hear that stuff all the time. So when I play pentatonic, I see this. If we stop on that note, that's that chord shape with the third and the bass, right? If we carry on, there's that C chord. So we're just kind of looking for this C shape. And if we look at G, if you look at the G chord, the note I have circled in blue but not filled in, that's the third of the chord again. So this is a C with an E in the bass. This is a G with a B in the bass. So I see that shape coming out of G major pentatonic. Right? And I see it coming out of this chord inversion. So I'm seeing the scale and this inversion. Now, to back up for a second, if you're comfortable with the cage system, this is a G chord shape, right? There's my G chord, but it's a C chord because I'm at the 8th fret. We don't usually play C like this because it's a weird shape to get into. But if you're looking at it from a cage perspective, there's your G chord. But if we're looking at it from a lick and idea perspective, here's C major pentatonic. So that's a really handy one to know. Right? So you can see how this can get complicated pretty quickly, but we're going to just stick to the shapes that are on the sheets. We'll fill that other stuff in on another course. So look for this C shape. There's my C is the 3rd string, so I know where I am. That's a C note, and That's a C major chord. That is in C major pentatonic. So there's that overlap I was talking about. Now this G chord, if I get rid of the bar, I have that next chord in example 2, right? And that also is part of my major pentatonic scale. So we're looking for chord shapes and areas of overlap with pentatonic. So this example 2, if we take this C chord, this G chord, my G is the root on the 4th string, okay? So that's what I'm targeting in on, and I can see this bar chord. And I can see this pentatonic, same G. Okay, so we're gonna have C, we're gonna have G. We move everything up 2 frets. D, A, and again, we're just gonna hang out on some E's. And I put the vibrato in there because just sitting on a chord, it can be kind of boinky. So you can give it kind of a shake, or if you have the bar, you know. Or if you're just kind of holding on here and you're just looking for the chord shape and you're just doing your best to hit the chord in time, that's cool, just do that. So we're gonna go C for 2 beats, G, D, A, find an E. Again, C, G, D, A, E. Okay, now let's try this with the recording. We'll do the slow version. Look for an E. C, D, A, E. C, E. You just want to get really comfortable with those chord shapes and transitioning and knowing where you are in the chord progression. Here comes that C. We have another measure of E. Back to C. Okay. Now let's try that up to tempo. So we'll just pick up the tempo a little bit. Same moves though. And I'm keying into where the root is. Here comes my C right here. G, D, A on the 4th string, E, just like my C chord shape. Now my E is at the 9th fret. We're just moving these shapes around. Okay, now let's move on to example 3, the rhythm part. This is going to be exactly like example 1, but we're starting on the C an octave higher. So instead of going like this, we're going to start at the top part of that pentatonic scale we learned. So this, C. Now notice the shape changes because the way the guitar is tuned. You have to make that adjustment. So now we look for our G. Now we're on our D, A. So look what we just outlined. that C chord, and I told you to look for a G. Remember, that's the fifth of our C chord. So C, G, D, look for an E. So we're going to just play the same game. Let's try this a couple times and we'll jump in with the recording. All right, again. D, A, looking for an E. Get the idea? Okay, let's try it with the track. Slow version. Look for the C on the third string. Okay, good. Now let's try it at the faster tempo. So now we need to work out those transitions. This is the repetition part where now we kind of challenge ourselves to keep our technique clean, keep our timing and our phrasing clean, but be able to do it at a quicker tempo. So here's more of like the album tempo. Look for that C. Okay, good. Now just like we looked for this C chord here a second ago, which is part of this C chord, which is part of our major pentatonic scale. We're going to look for the C chord an octave higher. So a little bit ago I talked about this E chord shape at the 8th fret. It's a C chord. Well, if we break this down, there we go. That triad, that's a C chord. So we're looking for the C on the 8th fret, root, 5th, 3rd. So just like this was E, G, C, this is E, G, C. And if we play our major pentatonic scale, the notes are all right there. We want to be able to see it as single note stuff and chord shapes. So C, C, all inside that pentatonic chord or scale. C chord, C chord, C chord, C chord, and it all ties into that major pentatonic as well. So it's part of that blueprint that I was talking about. Now we want to key into this C chord. So remember we're playing this. You've got a C chord right there. So you can start dancing around and embellishing this stuff. You'll hear that stuff all the time, right? That's where it's coming from. Seeing this triad and using the pentatonic scale for some of your melodic single note ideas. So C and C. Now we have this G chord at the 10th fret, if you look at your chord diagram sheet. Right? And we have this G chord. So 3rd, of the chord, fifth and root. Now, if the triad stuff doesn't make sense to you, that's okay. Just be able to identify the root note and learn the chord shape. If you want to get into, triads and cage stuff, check out those other courses, or the theory course too, that explains intervals and how triads are built and all that. So we want to see this G chord shape and this C chord shape. And this G chord shape, remember, also comes out of our G major pentatonic scale. So pentatonic, chord, G chord. So we get this C, some embellishments, G, some embellishments. That's what we're going to start getting into, is how to kind of weave this stuff together and move around. So for right now, let's jump back into the rhythm track, slow tempo. What we want to look for is this C chord, this G, and then we move this C chord up to D, and we move this G chord up to A. So we get C, G, D, A, and then again, we're looking for our E's. We're just trying to get out. Right now, that's our escape hatch, is just hang out on an E chord. Don't force an error. So C, G, D, A, look for an E. C, G, and this chord, these chords are used a lot in rock and roll, pop, soul, R&B. So you really want to know how to find these. And when I play this G, I'm not hitting the thin string. This will give your right hand a good technique workout too. I'm really just being careful to just hit those three strings. Otherwise, it's like a G6 chord. Now, if you bar it, like this cage shape, you can get away with hitting that top string, because the third of the chord, the B, you're barring it. But for right now, I want you to get used to getting on the tips of your fingers, getting these notes to ring. See how I'm trying to turn sideways here. See, I'm getting a lot of clarity. I'm on my tips, and I'm just hitting those strings. Later, when we start learning some licks, you probably will want to bar some, but for right now, just look for the chord shape and get it to ring. Same with the C chord. See, I'm on the side of my finger, I'm barring, and I'm applying equal pressure. And look at my second finger, it's really on its tip, not laying flat, or it's going to kill the second string. So to pull all that off, look at the back of the neck. See my thumb position? I don't have my palm jacked up here. I'm like this. Now, Hendrix will play like this a lot, and he's embellishing chord shapes. But for right now, we're just looking for this clarity on this triad. Let me get this tuner out of here so you can see a little better. C chord. See how much space I have right here? This hand position thing is really important. That's my C chord. That's what the front looks like. See my thumb position? Now watch when I go to G. C, G. Pretty minor movement. The more you're moving around, the more likely you are to make a mistake and miss something. That's why knowing these patterns and knowing where you are is so important, because you don't want to be just stumbling around. It's not going to work out. All right, so let's jump in and let's look at example 4 with the recording, and we're just playing those top triads. And remember, we're thinking about now how we interconnect the chord shape, the triad, and the pentatonic scale. Look for an E, chord or single note. All right, let's try to get in and out of those chord shapes at the recorded tempo. So when I go to the C chord, I'm keying into the 8th fret, 1st string. My G is my 2nd finger. My root is my 1st finger. My root is my 2nd finger. And if you have to play this whole backing track beginning to end of the song and just keep doing this until you get it, that's exactly the right way to practice. You need to get in and out of these chord shapes, because it's not all magically going to just come together. You want to be really intentional with finding these shapes. All these 4 examples that we've talked about, they're all going to come into play more and more. And then we're going to start embellishing them. So you need to really be patient with yourself and take the time to move in and out of these shapes and these pentatonic scales. Okay. Now let's start having some fun with it.